Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Coach Mike G. Today we're talking about serve receive, and specifically we'll be taking a closer look at the drop step move that we'll need to use when dealing with a deeper serve that is beating us to the end line. You can see there on the deeper ball, it's going to be a ball that is beating you, and pause it right there, is beating you a little bit deeper, and you no longer have time. At this point, there isn't enough time to drop that foot back and I guess shuffle back or beat the ball deeper to a spot. So what do we do in this situation? Do we keep moving our feet? Do we keep trying to fight the ball off and shuffle back? Or is there another movement we could make to solve the problem here? And it's a little blurry and it's difficult to see, so I'll try to highlight it with my marker here. But right here is where the ball is. So you can see, I mean, it's almost on her arms and there isn't a whole lot of time left for her to move. So what you're going to look at here is this right foot, this right hip, and we'll try to go a little frame by frame here. And here you can see we're in an elevated posture. We're extended at the lower body, and the reason for that is the ball is high relative to our body, and it's going deep. So of course, if we could beat the ball back and maintain more of an athletic posture, we would be in a medium stance. But we can't do that here. So we're having to stand up in order to lift our arms and get our contact point higher and behind the ball where it needs to be at the moment that we're gonna pass this ball. So we've got our hips opening up and turning to create some space, but mostly so that we're able to lift our arms up higher to meet the ball while also creating the necessary angle back to our target. You can see that here. This is a really nice still shot. And if we advance forward a little bit more, we can see that here the ball at this point has been passed and has rebounded off of her arms. So the rest of the movement that we're going to watch is more a result of what she did to get her platform in the right spot to make this pass. So I'm going to click play. And there is kind of what you see, that the drop step movement is now a result of, again, opening up, creating the opportunity for us to lift the arms and the platform higher while maintaining or creating an angle to get that ball to bounce back to our target. Now that was a Turkish national team player, professional player, and here we're going to look at a U18 player from this last summer. And here our libero finds herself in a similar situation. And what I had tweeted out with the video clip of this here, watching these players, obviously they're a little bit shorter than some of the other position players, and myself, I was a shorter player too. And the ball that's beating you deep and quickly to the end line, it's not always going to be possible to maintain posture. It's not always going to be possible to get an early read and beat that ball backwards, which I think would be ideal. So one of the tools that we need in our toolbox is for this situation, when I'm getting beat, when there is no longer time to move and shuffle back and beat that ball to a spot. This is the movement, or what we call a drop step, or opening of the hips to deal with situations like this where we need to get our platform up higher. We need to elevate our point of contact into a higher spot to meet and intercept this ball. And you know, if we were able to move back in time, you know, what we would see, if I can draw it out here, is at some point, right, that ball is going to continue to drop lower and lower to the ground. So if you're able to read that and drop back quickly enough, you know, your point of contact can, I'll just make some like hash marks here. The deeper you get, obviously, the lower your point of contact can be or will have to be. But in the event that you cannot move back fast enough, there is a solution, and it's this right here. It's this drop step that starts with, you know, moving your platform up and into the path of the serve. And what we're going to see here is this quick reaction, leading with the platform, and at the same time, you know, we're turning our hips and our body to allow ourselves to, again, get the arms up higher while maintaining or creating some kind of appropriate platform tilt and angle back to our setter, or at least forward towards the net. So we'll click forward a few more frame by frames. There's that contact, and look how high it is, right? Her contact point really is shoulder height. That is extremely high in a really tall position. And you know, I really like the obviously the outcome and the result here from this passer. But you know, I don't think it's often that as a coach or even as a player that you would think that this high, tall, elevated position would actually be the solution, would actually be the answer. And I think a lot of times the feedback that we give or receive from coaches, mostly, you know, because this ball ends up getting shanked behind us, the feedback that we often get is, don't stand up, don't swing your arms, don't lift your shoulders back and out of posture. And I'm in a moment here, we're going to get to another video, and I'm going to make the case that that's not maybe the most appropriate feedback, certainly not the appropriate feedback all of the time. Given the circumstances here and how deep this player was able to get, how else would she be able to get her platform high enough to pass this ball and set an angle to get it back on target? The other point that I just want to make is that you'll notice the drop step. Apologize there. The drop step doesn't always happen. Okay, we're looking at her foot here now. Doesn't always happen before you make contact. And I don't think that's a thing that we really talk about as coaches when we're discussing this, or we're teaching or training or trying to replicate this type of scenario. Oftentimes, I think what's most common is we teach to open the hips, to get that foot to drop back and set it on the ground and then pass. And that's, when I watch video, you know, that's, I do see that, but I don't see that in this situation when the ball's beating you high and fast to the deep area, to the end line. Okay, so what's going to happen? What might happen if you don't open up your hips, if you don't turn to the side and allow yourself to, you know, to set the right angle? Is you're going to end up in a situation like this. Okay, so this player here attempts to shuffle back there and attempts to stay really behind and midline to this ball. And I think this is a good freeze frame here. You know, somewhere in this area is probably where her sweet spot is to make contact with that ball. And as we can see, this ball is going to hit her in the neck. Okay, so again, this is a high, fast ball that's beating her. I'll draw another line here that's going to go deeper behind her. In a perfect world, she would have gotten back sooner. She would have made a better read, but here's where we're at. Okay, And so instead of getting to the side, watch how she attempts to lift her platform to get that contact point, that sweet spot of her platform high enough to make contact with the ball. And because she's squared up behind the ball, the result is no tilt in the shoulders, no tilt in the hips. And because of that, she's going to end up passing or contacting the very bottom of the ball and then lifting that ball on contact. She's going to end up lifting that ball high, straight up in the air and off the net. One more look here in slow motion. You'll see, and I'll let it play out. There's the lifting of the contact point. And once again, you know, I don't know necessarily what the best feedback would be, but what I know is if this player doesn't lift her arms, then she's going to have to, right here, she's going to have to pass the ball with her shoulder, you know, some other part of her platform or her body to make contact. And who knows where that ball is going to go. It may turn out well, but our instinct is to try to get our sweet spot of our platform on that ball, okay? And so that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing the standing up, the shoulders going up and back, and the swinging and the lifting of the arms to make contact with the ball. So, you know, for coaches out there, I guess the question I'll pose to you is, you know, what's going to be the proper feedback? Is it okay to say, you know, stay in posture, make a better read, and get deeper next time? You know, fair, but certainly not possible all of the time. And if we're not having these conversations with our players about what else they can do to achieve the desired outcome in these situations, then I don't think we're helping our passers really develop the range and capabilities that I think that they're capable of. And so we'll go to this next video. Here we're going to be looking at the player to the left here, and I think what I'll try to do is move myself so we can see here. We're looking at a similar situation. There it is, the deep ball that's beating you to the end line. And when you watch it full speed, you really get a sense for how quickly that, you know, some of these serves are going to come. You know, by the time I think this player feels like she has some sort of read on the line of the serve, there really isn't a whole lot of time there. I think she's tracked it, and now it's about, you know, figuring out some sort of movement to get her arm and platform in the right spot. And what it's very difficult to see on camera here. Okay, so first she's coming up higher, she's lifting, she's standing up out of posture, and again, we need to get our contact point higher off the ground, or just high enough to meet the ball. Okay, so that's what's happening here. What you can't really see on video is that at the very end, at this point where she believes, you know, this is where I'm going to meet the ball, there is late movement here where it floats just a little bit to her right. And what you're going to see here, hopefully, I wish I could zoom in, right there, you're going to see that because of that late movement, and I'll try to illustrate. So here's the ball moving, and then towards the end, it starts to tail in this direction. Okay. And that late movement happens so late that there isn't anything else the player can do. There's no time to catch up to this late movement. It just, in terms of physics and time and space, we cannot react fast enough at this point. But what you're going to end up seeing, and I think we miss this a lot of times as coaches, is we don't see that late movement or float on the ball. We're sitting on the sideline, so how can we see that? Only the player can see that, and only the player passing will really know. But watch as how she tries to move and swing her arms towards the right where that ball was moving. Okay? And so what you see here, and I'll back it up again because I think every player and coach knows what I'm talking about here. We see the result. We see the outcome of the late movement and now the coming out of posture, the swinging of the arms, and we think that that is why the ball got shanked back and to the right. When in fact, the reason the ball got shanked back and to the right is right here. It's at this moment where that late movement causes the ball to hit this outer edge of this player's arms and platform. And essentially what's happening there is the ball is hitting a corner of her arm, of her platform. And it ricochets off that corner. Look at that. It immediately bounces up and back and away. And her swinging her arms really had nothing to do with causing that ball to result in this type of pass. It was the late movement of the ball that we're just not able, at a certain point, we just can't react fast enough. And obviously better, more experienced players will be able to track and see and react to later movement, but there is a point at which it will float so fast and so late that unless you just get lucky, there isn't a whole lot that you're going to be able to do about that. All right, we're coming to the end here, and I think I just have one last video here that I'll play, and we'll be looking at the UW libero. And I think in a perfect world, this is what we're looking for, and this is what we're hoping for. We're hoping for some simple movement. We're hoping for quiet upper body. We're gonna keep our shoulders down or forward and over the ball, and we're gonna be tilting our hips and shoulders to create angles. And get that ball to bounce back to our target. But there's going to be times where our players are capable of doing this, and there won't be a whole lot of excuse for when they don't, other than maybe they got caught off guard or they weren't paying attention, they got distracted, whatever. But you can see that this really wasn't a ball that was beating her to this deep area of the court. With pace. So, just keep in mind that there's some ideal movements and techniques and things that we want to teach and see a lot of. But I guess the point of the video, and also what I would challenge coaches on, is we don't want to ignore the other realities and the other parts of the game that honestly happen quite frequently. And I will admit that I haven't done all the research, but I would like to think that I certainly have never heard of something like this happening where, in a college match, let's say, I haven't heard of a player receiving 10 balls and passing all 10 of them perfect, which would be, obviously 10 for 10 there. On rare cases, I've heard of hitters getting 10 kills on exactly 10 swings. It's very rare and difficult to do, but I think it's the velocity that some serves are going to have, and certainly when you're dealing with a knuckleball or some float, or especially this late float movement on the ball, sometimes that's just going to happen by chance and at random. And if it moves late, later than you are physically capable of seeing and reacting to, if you're like most players in that situation, you're going to be on the wrong side of luck there, and you're going to shank a ball. So I hope you found this video insightful, and for all you coaches out there, hopefully you'll now have a better understanding of what we're really seeing when we watch players shank balls that are high and deep going behind them. Again, ask yourself, is it really because they stood up and came out of posture and swung their arms at the ball, or is it because they got beat and the ball had some late movement on it that that they just weren't capable of reacting fast enough to? They tried, but the swinging of the arms was more of a result of that reaction, that delayed reaction from what our eyes see and then what our arms ultimately are capable of reacting or doing. I've never played baseball, but I would imagine for any batters out there that have faced some late movement on a pitch, or say even a knuckleball, I think even really good batters will tell you, you're tracking that ball and you're predicting and thinking it's going to be in one spot, and when you swing and miss, or you foul tip that thing, a lot of times you can be left wondering, where the heck did that ball go? How did I miss that? And I think we're seeing something similar here with some of the serves that are going fast and deep and have late movement. All right, if you like this video and you found it helpful and useful, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and help it grow. I'm hoping to get to 100 here soon, so I can have a unique YouTube link. But until I hit that number of 100 subscribers, it's still going to be some random set of numbers and letters that YouTube spits out. Once again, this is Coach Mike G, and I hope everyone's having a good day, and I will catch you all in the next video.